Everybody to go back to their tables. All right, Linda authorized me to restart the finishing part of this afternoon, so I have her authority. My name is Don Howard. I am a solution architect at Deluxe Corporation in Shoreview, and I am also on the leadership board of the Minnesota chapter of ISA. And my job today is to introduce our third keynote speaker of the day, Paul Price, who is the CEO of ISA. But before I do that, I wanted to take a little bit of time to kind of plant the seed about what ISA is and give you a little bit better understanding of the local chapter and the global organization. Now, when I agreed to do this, I didn't realize I would be following the guy who says we're doing it all wrong. So I guess that's just my luck. Purpose of my brief talk before I bring Paul up is to explain to you, give you an idea of what ISA is, what makes it special, and how you can become part of the community if you like what you hear today. ISA, as you can see, was one of the 6 MAC founding member organizations, and in fact I can remember being there when we hatched the idea not that long ago of wouldn't it be a great idea to bring all organizations, kind of pool the abilities and bring a large conference to the local area. All right, what is ISA? ISA is, and this is reading off of some of the material, it's a premier association focused on the architecture profession through advancement of best practices in education and delivery of services and programs to architects of all levels around the world. What does that mean? Well, it's really it's an association to advance the profession, as it says, by focusing on best practices, by asking practicing architects what they think is important, and by following up with the education and the certification to ensure that everybody knows what they're doing. And then it's also to turn around to that body of folks and deliver high-quality services and programs really to architects all over the world, for one thing, and at all levels, from aspiring architects to master architects. ISA was founded by Paul Price in 2002, headquartered in Austin, Texas, has 30-plus chapters around the world. All told, links together a network of about 80,000 architects. 8,000 members in ISA. There is a full-time operational and executive staff, again in Austin, Texas. There are regional management teams and offices, and there are very active leadership committees. So what makes ISA special to me? First of all, it's all about practicing architects. So it's by and for practicing architects who are allowed to drive standards and the actual association to current needs. A couple other incidentals: vendor neutral, technology agnostic, and it's about giving architects skills that they need to succeed in the profession, not about frameworks. Another thing that really makes ISA special to me, and I'll take each one of these in turn a little bit, are certification, training, chapters. As you'll see, there's quite a few all over the globe. And last but not least, the content that ISA is offering the professional community, research and outreach. So what are the fundamental underpinnings of a professional group that's about and for, by and for, practicing architects? Well, it looks something like this. And let me just walk you quickly through. First of all, there is the 5 pillars of knowledge that you can see on the bottom, foundation, body of knowledge. Starts at the bottom, and this is part of ICE's proposition, that practicing architects must understand business technology strategy, must be well versed in that. Moving up, architects must also be able to relate to people at all levels in the organization, and that really is brought out in the human dynamics pillar. The other pillars, more technology-based, like you'd expect, and design-based. On top of that, consistent with any profession, are specializations. This has changed somewhat over the years, reflecting how the association changes according to the way technology and business is changing. So we have software architecture, infrastructure, business architecture, information architecture, and solution architecture. And ISA addresses all of those. Above that is more of a role of the enterprise architect, who is expected to be well-versed in all of the specialty areas and will typically lead and look out over longer time horizons. Key part of a profession, obviously, is being able to certify against the body of knowledge that was defined. So you can see here the sort of ramping up of abilities over a career, starting out with an aspiring architect. I won't go into all this, but the foundation or the certification levels are CETA Foundation, CETA Associate, etc. You're moving up the ladder in terms of what you know, the effectiveness that you offer the organization, and that's backed with ISA's help by tests, for example, in the first 2 certification levels that you can take. And then for the last 2, it's more of a board, panel, assessment of your career's body of work. Another thing in terms of one of ICE's strengths are the courses that ICE offers, and I'm listing these as training opportunities. I personally have taken a couple of these and give you my strong personal recommendation. They're offered both on-site and online. Architecture Core that you see in the upper left-hand corner was more about level setting, and it was attended by everyone from someone who wanted to become an architect to people, CXO level folks, and it was all about discussing architecture and its importance within the organization. The other ones you can see, business technology strategy. There are courses that address each one of the specialties that exist in the profession, according to ICE's perspective. Being a strong architecture professional is all about realizing this is a huge, I need to have an immense body of knowledge. I may not have it now, but I will have a plan to get it, and ISA will offer you the resources. So just kind of a sampling of some of the self-paced training subjects offered by ISA. Chapters, you can see from this map, 42 chapters scattered around the globe. I highlighted our Minnesota chapter. We have 50-plus members. We'd love to have you join us. We have a leadership board of about 5 or 6 folks who are strongly committed to the architecture profession, seeing it succeed, and kind of helping advance this professional message that ISA is giving. Just a quick screenshot on content. This is the ISA Global website, complete makeover as of September 1st. It looks great. I would encourage you to visit it. I know the stuff's a little hard to see, but it's introducing all of what you'd expect, latest articles, blogs, most popular summaries, latest news. The aim is to make this, one-stop shop for architecture information. If you like what you heard, here are a few ways that you can get involved. Make ISA Global Portal your home page. If you can't do that, at least bookmark it. We'll be satisfied with that. And by the way, ISA has been sponsoring the recording of all of these sessions, so you'll be able to take a look at the ones you weren't physically able to make. A little bit of incentive to visit it. That ought to be available on ISA Global in a few weeks. We have 2 levels of membership, individual membership. The basic one is free. Check us out. And then there's a full membership with full benefits. There are also corporate memberships that your company may want to take advantage of. Another way is to join us, the local chapter, for our events. We have a roundtable coming up next Thursday. Meets early in the morning. If you're not an early bird, that might not be what you'll want to do. But we have a great group of folks who discuss important topics and get together and network. I also, for me personally, this really is a vehicle for me at the stage of career I'm at for giving back to the profession. And I have been doing mentoring and working hard to support the next generation. Last couple of things, get certified. Encourage your architecture colleagues to do the same. And then finally, join some of the ISA online communities. Great opportunity to work together when we can't all get together like we've been able to today, and on which you can share content and propose and conduct research. With that, I will move on to introducing our third and final keynote speaker of the day, Paul Price. Now, I first met Paul here in 2009. Actually, it was in downtown Minneapolis. He came to keynote ISA Regional Conference, and I believe it was about this time of year. Now, Paul is from Austin, Texas, so I'm glad we can give him a true shot of Minnesota cold. I'm not sure if that's the way we did it last time. That's the way it worked out. Back then, and to this day, I've continued to be impressed by the clarity of Paul's message and the persistence with which he delivers it. He has a grasp of the difficulties of the profession, which are big, as we all know, but he has an unshakable belief that we can become a preeminent profession in the same way that the medical, legal, building architecture, etc., has done before us. I had the pleasure last June of joining Paul in Seattle, where he took off his CEO hat and put on his instructor's hat for a week-long session on solution architecture, and it was great. Please join me in welcoming Paul Price for his presentation on cognitive computing in today's world. Paul Price.
Thanks, Don. Is this working? Well, I don't know if you guys can hear me or not. There we go. I think I was starting now. It's good to be back in Minnesota. I actually credit Minnesota with the rigor in my architecture practice, and I am just an architect just like you guys. That's it. That's all I do. That's all I've ever done. I was really bad at the other jobs they gave me. I was. I'm the only person in all of technology and business that brags about being the worst developer you've ever met. Mostly because I never really cared about whether or not I put errors in production, as long as those... Still not working? How's that? A little better? No, normally nobody has any problem hearing me, no matter the size of the room. I've had that problem since kindergarten. I was the one with all the checks on the chalkboard next to my name. I sent over the guys when we did this conference, and I want to thank all of the groups that came together. It reminds me of when we started ISA 13 years ago. Our first conference ever involved all the groups in Austin, Texas. I started a little software architect user group back then, 13 years ago, and now we are one of the largest associations in the world for architects. So it's been kind of a cool journey. I never meant to do this. If you don't like professional associations, I'm sorry. But this is the way it turned out. We are a profession. I was the chief architect for Dell Pan Asia. I've done a whole bunch of big architecture jobs and a whole bunch of small architecture jobs, project management, development management, business analysis. I even did a stint as a user interface designer. Bad choice. Never hire me for that. That's just not a good idea. But I sent over a whole bunch of talks to the folks about, what is enterprise architecture or doing business architecture through capability analysis and a couple of other things. And I was so happy when they chose the cognitive computing talk. Because, well, honestly, how many of you have technology backgrounds? Okay, remember Jeff's talk about what works regardless of how you do it and what is and what isn't? Remember that part? Everyone in here raised their hands. So, almost. There's always a holdout of like 2 that are here like, I'm from marketing and I heard about this. Sounds really cool. But the interesting thing is what works. When you use the term architect, the same results happen year after year after year. So this whole conference, you've heard, you have to be the business, you have to think the business, you have to be the business, you have to talk about business. It's not about technology. Okay, what works? You all have technology backgrounds. Let's not run away from that too far. And that's why I was super happy that I got to talk about Scotty up here. Because as a kid, I wanted to talk to my computer. I liked playing video games. I liked well, they weren't video games, really. It was kind of the Atari and then, the command line games that we had on the Commodore and some of those kinds of things. But the imagination, the vision of Star Trek, Star Wars, all of the Heinlein novels, all of the Asimov's novels, all of that was me. I'm a geek. Seriously proud of it. I just learned how to turn being a geek into something that's really, really, really good for the people who hire me. I figured out how to be a geek and still think about working on commission. Now think about that. The only survey I'm going to do other than the technologists is the flip side of that. How many of you have written in the last year your own, I don't mean somebody else's, your own business case and presented it to your business or your customer? That is what's wrong. It's not being a technologist that's a problem. It's that we don't teach each other and ourselves how to take technology and make money with it. We wait for marketing to tell us they want a social media strategy. How many of you knew that social media was going to be a big deal before marketing did? Okay, come on, everybody raise your hand. I've been over to marketing recently, and it's been out for, 8, 9, 10 years now? And they're still going, maybe we should have a Facebook page. Yeah, totally. We could Twitter. The notion that we are going to be using technology in a strategic way is almost trite, right? Except the way we talk about it is about the inside of technology. So when I say stand tall and be proud to be a technologist, I don't mean let's go back and do models of the change management system and and our data stores and our data storage processes and how we do persistence. I mean, how is technology going to fundamentally transform your customer's business, the business that you work for, humanity as a whole? Recently, not so recently, Twitter impacted the entire social political dynamics of Middle Eastern country. That's a freaking big deal. I wear a watch that will vibrate when I run over time, which I will do because I am incapable of speaking within a particular time frame. So you guys just tell me to shut up when you're ready to get drunk. Either that or just start getting drinks now, and we'll just get drunk together. That's how ISA started anyway. Just beers over a slide deck. Now, so what I'm going to talk to you today then is not about enterprise architecture and how to be a good architect, because you know what? The truth is, we already know the answer. That conversation is done. The first meeting 13 years ago at ISA, guess what it was? What is architecture? We know. Let's stop having the meeting. You know what's good architecture? An experienced, capable architect. Doesn't matter the framework you use. Doesn't matter the tools you use. Doesn't matter all those things are interesting and important in terms of the optimization of our skill set, but what makes for great architecture are great architects. And that is what ISA set out to achieve. So we're going to put that aside, and we're going to actually talk about something fun. We're going to talk about something that could be a change and your chance to write a use case, or a business case, I should say, in the coming year. And by the way, when I come back next year, I want everybody to raise their hand. Write a business case. I don't care if you show it to anybody. At least write one. Okay. Era of cognitive computing. Scotty. Now, the truth is, I'm a geek. And most people, you know, when they went and watched Iron Man, they liked this. The sad part about me is I liked Jarvis. I wanted my system to be my assistant. I wanted Jarvis to help me, you know, model and understand the environment around me. I wanted to be able to do these really amazing interactions with the models that I choose so that I could start understanding the world better in a way that I'm not capable of as a human. I've read a lot of architecture books. I've read almost all of them. If it comes out with a title, I try to read it. Guess what I can't remember? Most of them. I mean, I love the authors. I try to meet as many of them as possible. We try to get them on video and put them on the website and hear their ideas, and I still can't remember most of it. You know who's really good at remembering this kind of factual information and what page number it's on? My computer. I want Jarvis. I want to be able to say, Jarvis, how much will it cost us to rip out the persistence engine of this particular piece of software and update it with a JDO or a pick your link technology? How effective would it be? How much better could we understand our customer behavior if we were to utilize some form of tracking across a mobile and multiple devices, right, in the Internet of Things? Jarvis, how much money would it be worth to us if we were to embed RFID chips in X product so that we could track it from this point to this point in the warehouse or the whatnot, and be able to have a design dialogue with something that is a little more powerful? And this reality is here today. We have robots that we talk to. Right? We have cloud computing, we have the Internet of Things. Our customers interact with us all over the world in multiple contexts, and we need to be able to keep track of that. We need to understand what is cognitive computing. And cognitive computing is based on a few basic things. Number one, natural language processing. The ability to actually talk to Jarvis, right? Hey, Jarvis, how you doing? Okay, shut up, Jarvis, right? Without typing, without being hunched over a keyboard. Like, this is not a natural position for humans. It's become one in the last 10, 20 years, but hopefully it will go away. Some of the other pieces are the ability to bring together domain knowledge and to understand that and interact and ask it, the knowledge expertise from the days before. The other things are for our systems to be able to adapt to our customers and to our internal business partners. So our systems learn to learn. And this becomes tremendously important as the world gets more complicated. Now think about this. I'm obviously on an Iron Man kick. I watched all three up. My daughter and I had a little Iron Man, marathon the other day, and these seem like good. Now, think about this. Even if you could do this, wouldn't that be cool, by the way? Rational rows. Give me that. You know, I mean, I actually love the Archimate tool, but give me that. Come on. But this is even a simple model for us, isn't it? It's static. It's not moving in time. What's the big problem with enterprise architecture, envisioning, et cetera, is that our models are changing literally every day. There'll be a patch release in your production environment. There'll be a minor upgrade that you weren't aware of. There'll be a whole set of servers that are replaced. So everything's moving out from underneath of us every day. We're not building a skyscraper on a nice, solid, packed earth with a good foundation. We're building it on the top of the ocean. And we're supposed to float it there. So we need things that can help us interact with these complicated models. And that's the promise of cognitive computing. Now, many of you will probably be saying, yeah, I'm calling BS on this. We have this AI craze every 10 years. Does everybody remember the business rule craze from about 10 years ago when everything was going to be business rules? We were to stop programming altogether, and everything was going to be configured in business rules. And what happened? They fell into a very small subset of solutions that were very important, but it didn't change the universe. However, things have changed. Why is that? Well, we've invested a lot in artificial intelligence algorithms. Why? Because the gaming market is $64 billion, and how do you think they come up with all of those interactions where Halo does whatever? It's all AI. So we've gotten very good in certain markets about doing artificial intelligence. Also, we've managed to index the vast majority of human knowledge and make it available to systemic processing. Also, we've managed to create an environment where SaaS-based applications are a reality. So the promise of SOA 10 years ago is real, right? We have significant numbers of apps on any device that we want to use that will integrate in a huge web across the internet, and we can borrow and steal chunks of it. Of course, we have to pay for every piece we use on every transaction, so we need to be real careful how we choose to do that as architects. But the SaaS world is real. Orchestration of heavyweight business capability outside of the enterprise is today. Also, we all love our devices. Anybody have Google Glass on? No? Anybody have any kind of Google Glass at home that they play with all the time? There he goes. There's my mic. There's my guy. I just got my gear. I love it. I'm going to take a video of you guys on it because we're just by nature geeks. We like to play with technology, and so does everybody else we know. The device intrusion into our lives everywhere. How many of you are really upset because we have wireless on planes now? You know why? That was the time when we didn't have to do anything. We got to drink those little small bottles of vodka, and then we'd get off the plane and go, oh yeah, no, I worked on that presentation the whole flight. Sure I did. I watched Iron Man. So the other reason why I think cognitive computing is actually here now, Google's acquisition of DeepMind, Microsoft Azure's machine learning. This is machine learning that's SaaS-based. You get all of the algorithms that Microsoft came up with for Halo and for all their games, as well as all the algorithms they came up with for Bing, and you get to use it in your own data learning systems. So pretty powerful. And you can use it, you can train it for free. You can use it SaaS-based. You can use it over the cloud. You can use it on little tiny applications or really big ones, and it'll scale with you and all that good stuff. IBM Watson. I just did an interview 3 days ago with the CTO and chief architect from IBM Watson. They have, this is Manoj, he's the GM. They have Watson almost passing the U.S. Medical Doctor License Exam. Now, we all know Watson did good at Jeopardy, but come on, that's a brute force search problem, right? We can kind of play it off. Passing the licensing exam as a doctor is different. It is time we start thinking about how we are going to participate in a cognitive world where we don't know whether the actors are human or machine. It's time we prepare ourselves to think in the future, how are we going to expose the services of our business in the same way that Microsoft did with Azure? You know what happened there? The Bing and the Xbox guys got together and they went, wow, we've got all this cool ML stuff. Let's sell it. The same thing happened in a shipping company that I just recently talked to. They just recently rolled out their software division, and now they sell their shipping services and optimization services for moving large amounts of stuff to other companies. What's your company going to do? How are you going to participate in a world where I need to access you on this? And if I'm not accessing you on this, then I don't want to, I'm going to go with a competitor that's willing to do that. And not only that, but I don't want to just access your services by clicking some complicated app. I want to say, Jarvis, how much was my medical insurance last month? How much did I pay in my premium? And get an answer. And can you research 3 other insurance providers that would have lower premiums? Because I don't think I'm going to get sick anytime soon. I'm in Minnesota now, so I probably should actually get a better provider because I'm going to be sick as a dog tomorrow, right? Having domain in-depth knowledge is what Watson is all about. Being able to interact in a dynamic way in terms of personal assistance. SMART is also absolutely required for IoT and cloud. The ability for us to even have these things effectively. How many of you are sick of apps already? Yeah, come on, really. I can't find Instagram anymore. And they only let me have 5 screens. I mean, it's in there somewhere, but I'm just dead tired. I don't want to go look for it. The same thing is true in my business. We have, oh goodness, Slack. We've got 85. I think we've got 60 to 75 different little bitty apps that do little bitty things that all need to integrate across lots of different places. And it makes my head hurt. And I have to configure it. And configuration in an IoT world, in a BYOD world alone is a nightmare, right? Even in our data center, configuration management is hard. How do we do configuration when there is absolutely no control over devices? How do we do security? How do we handle that without assistance? I don't know about you, but I've yet to get my attachment so that I can perceive the internet and my systems in a direct way. So I have to use like lots of different logs and lots of different small data to try to know what in the heck is going on. Guess what humans are really bad at? Managing lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of small data. We're really good at big pattern recognition, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We are not going to get to too much more complexity before these things happen, and we can't handle them. The other reason this is important is because people want it integrated. They want you in their lives. Blue Cross Blue Shield did an amazing presentation in innovation, and a lot of us are talking about this customer journey right now. What does a customer journey look like? Right? If you're an ISA member, I can't think about whether or not I'm useful to you when you get home and you can download the big white paper, etc. No, you need to be able to ask a question when you're sitting in a business meeting thinking about, oh man, I've got to be able to understand how to do this business capability model or a strategy map or strategy canvas. I need a quick example of that, and I need it on my watch so that nobody knows that I'm looking this up and pretending I know what I'm doing. So we have to think about our customer everywhere on every device and all of our services being available in every place at all times. We also have this proliferation of data now where we're bringing, if you're working, if you're in manufacturing or if you're in plants or warehousing or anything, even in retail on the brick and mortar floors, we have these huge amounts of information that tell us everything we really want to know about our customers and our employees if we could just understand it. We also have sensor data, we have control logic, and all of that we now want exposed inside of our network logic so that we can make smart decisions about how quickly things come out of our plants, how much optimization we should have inside of our pick-pack and our inventory systems, how many orders or what's the backlog of orders that's optimal for us. How do we integrate with our supply chain? All of that demands the next evolution of machines. The other thing that we have to think about is security. Security has become the single most important and difficult conversation to be had anywhere, right? How do I secure my data on this? How do I secure my identity as a person? I don't know about you, but I don't feel capable anymore of configuring my home. And I like this stuff. You know, I like to connect all my devices and my surround sound with my watch and to have my temperature control connected also with my watch. I'm apparently really fast. I just got it. But that exposes me to drastic amounts of security risk. I have a 14-year-old daughter. I don't really want people to know where she is all the time, but I don't know how to do that anymore. Her friend's device, she logs into Facebook, blah, blah, blah. There is so much information coming all the time that we need help understanding it and collating it and bringing it together in a way that isn't just business intelligence in a new report. These are all reports that are collated from other data. How do I make sense of this? How do I think about it? How do I discuss with it? Now, the cloud, just so you understand, of course, I want to point out, when I say the cloud, I'm talking about the umbrella term for anything addressable over a network, anything you can reach. We've talked about it in lots of different ways. I use it as an umbrella rubric for just anything, a device, anything I can talk to over a network. It has a lot of sort of relevant architectural aspects, but we're not going to dive into those. You can have those for later. And when I talk about the Internet of Things, I talk about the addressable objects and effectively their identity. And identity is going to become an even more murky subject. It's already a big problem, right? Because identity is going to mean that we're addressing objects that we don't know whether they're human or not. Now, this happens in sales situations and negotiation. It happens in just direct network addressable protocols. But think about the world where cognitive computing can act for us. Now, this gets really interesting because we as humans are not really prepared to think about today's technology in terms of legislation, in terms of how we create rules. But this is the opportunity for you to think further ahead than anyone else in your business. How can our systems act for us? How can we get ahead? Further and further research shows everybody's saying the same thing. Our window of margin gets smaller and smaller and smaller as businesses every year, and we end up in these microtransactions that we have to optimize, but we can't do that as humans. So we have the opportunity to build agents that have intelligence that are able to act for us. This is a proposed hierarchy of IoT identities that you may want to consider as you start thinking about your systems. Now, I brought those things up because what I really want to talk to you about are opportunities for you to write a business case. What's the cool stuff we can do with this? See how much time we have here. Probably not much. I'm probably way over as usual. The vast majority of smart systems, cognitive computing, breaks down into the following categories: intelligent search or advanced search, inferencing or rule systems, fuzzy reasoning, which is, by the way, how I got my chief architect title. I'll tell you about that in a sec. Optimization, learning, natural language and interpretation, and negotiation and action. So in search, right, we're all used to sort of Google, right? We're used to like, okay, I would like to know restaurants in Twin Cities. I'm going to visit. I would like to have a nice dinner. And what do I get? Massive results. And then I have to pick through Yelp and say, and then read everybody's comments. What the interesting thing about cognitive operations is that we are starting to look at things like Watson, this is their play, which is instead of that, I want Watson to tell me, or Jarvis to tell me, the top 3 restaurants that I would like, and already know which ones those were. I love tasting menus. I like French food. I love Japanese food. I really like French-Japanese fusion tasting menus. That's easy. I'm going to go to that no matter what. Now, that wasn't now everybody here knows when I come next year and I call you up and I'm going to call all of you and say, which restaurant should I go to? You're all going to know which to recommend, right? And yet our systems just say Japanese, French, and give us a big long list. So the notion of searching for information has to get significantly smarter, and this is what we're doing and our data scientists are doing, and somebody's literally calling me. Would you guys like to answer? Because there is more data and information out there now than we can potentially ever comprehend. And we have the opportunity to bring this information to our business partners in ways that massively augment their ability to do their jobs. Now, I actually have a case study on this of an individual architect who came to me at a conference and said, Paul, I just spent $1 million on a sales enablement platform, and I'm trying to justify another $2 million of investment. And we sat down and we did this process for him to figure out how much the platform was actually worth. Now, this was 8 years ago, and it was primarily a knowledge management system that helped salespeople while they were on calls with customers. How much more powerful would that be if those salespeople could deal with a system that knew the customer they were dealing with, the information and the purchase history of that customer, in the same way that the salesperson did, and could extract all of that knowledge out of the ether and bring results that the salesperson could use on the phone, as opposed to that laundry list of 50 Google, results of just, let me click on this and read. So the opportunity for search is intense. We have now cataloged, and I'm actually very impressed with Watson, as you can tell. I think it's a cool time. I think it's a great thing to be looking at. They have an API, and I want architects to be thinking about what could we do with this with our companies. It's not cheap, so I'm not selling it. ISA is not affiliated with it. So the only thing I'm saying is these are really amazing things that are coming your way. The rules we live by. Now, I have been all over the world. I have talked to many an architect, and Jeff was talking about low-hanging fruit. This is one of those that seems to be an easy win in every company I go to. Business rules that change a lot and the systems that change with them, and extracting those into a flexible rule base is just not that hard anymore. Go by Drools, go by JRules, go by any number of rule systems and integrate those with your ESB or your workflow, and all of a sudden you have this really cool ability to change your business rules all the time. It gets more interesting, though, because some rules engines actually have the ability to add new data to your context. So it's not just deduction and hard rules that you write, hardened rules that you write. Things like configuration management has a massive ability to do rule handling. Things like sales systems, very important in those kinds of areas. I came from Dell retail, and this was one of my claims to fame. We made the rules that made it so that people could not buy computers off of the Dell system that didn't work. Up to the point where I got there, about 20 to 30% of orders that people would actually order online actually weren't possible to make. So we had to call them up and say, oh, sorry, guess what? You know that that 150,000 laptops you ordered, they don't work. You can't do it that way. Okay. Wasn't that big of orders. So rule systems, another way to add smart to your architectures. Fuzzy reasoning. Anybody in here done a fuzzy project? Oh, darn. I always ask because when I do talks on cognitive because, well, I'm just looking for a buddy. Fuzzy reasoning is about how to have non-crisp set membership. It's basically a geeky way of saying, is it cold here? There's somebody in this room that doesn't think it's too cold. Can you just raise your hand? Now, if this was a room full of Texans, how many do you think would be raising their hand? All Texans would come in here and say, are you kidding? I'm not going out there. It's nice and warm. We have beer. The notion that it is not cold to you, but it is freezing to me, is what fuzzy logic is about. It's cold in Sweden. It may be true, or maybe not. A cup is also a bowl. Now this harkens back to the really old mathematics, Aristotle, and some notion with something that's called the law of the excluded middle, which you don't probably want to know anything about, but it has to do with how do we handle fuzzy concepts within our business. And it is tremendously powerful. What is a good CPU speed or memory amount for a gaming device? It has a range, right? It also has a range based on your price interest. It has a range based on whether it's a mobile device or whether it's a stationary, a big, am I having LAN parties with my monster? So there's a lot of answers to that. This is the kind of thing that helps you answer that in a way that doesn't require you to write 10,000 rules. You can write like 3 or 4. So fuzzy is a really powerful tool for you to deal with uncertainty in your organizations and to do so in such a way that you can provide massive business value in a humanly compatible way, in a business compatible way. You write rules or concepts in something that's close to the way we think about them as humans. Optimization problems. Anybody here have large order management, inventory management, pathing problems to solve in terms of how you get your FedEx trucks to the right location at the right time in the right order? Optimization tools give us the ability to optimize our business processes, graph navigation, path traversal, business integration, and involve all these processes in a optimized fashion. Of course, there are more directed learning programs. This is where the Microsoft Azure piece comes in. This gives you the abilities to have your systems learn. These are things like your neural networks and how we do machine learning. There are a lot of reasons to do machine learning and a lot of optimal applications to them. The number one that I think is interesting is learning about our customers right now. That's the one I like the most right now. Understanding customer behavior and understanding how to create adaptive systems that follow them through their journey with our company. So this is a very exciting aspect of the entire cognitive computing platform. The other thing that's becoming very, very important, especially as we start down the configuration management path, is thing-to-thing communication. How do we interact thing-to-thing? At what point is it okay for my phone to book me a restaurant? What if that restaurant booking means that if I don't show up, I have to pay? There are some, you know, if you go to Open Table or whatever, and it's a place, sometimes you sign and they say, if you don't show up, you're going to pay us $50. That becomes very, very interesting in terms of agents. And this whole notion of agents is where we've wanted to go. Now, I'm sure all of you guys have heard of Siri. And has anybody heard of the new Microsoft one? Going to be a big deal, right? Obviously, we have Google has Now. This whole notion that we've got in agents that are going to work for us has come around time and time and time again. But this has intense business application. Because as those windows for margin acquisition, like Jeff said, tell me where we're making money and find me more of it. As those windows where we make money get smaller and smaller, it is important that we be able to identify them, and sometimes that doesn't work with humans. And it's not just a big business intelligence project, it's about quick search, go out and find me the restaurants that are in Twin Cities and book me a table. I don't have time to think about that level of problem right now. I've got to prepare my keynote on the flight up here. No, I'm just kidding. So there's a whole lot of interesting application to this. Now, in a world where Internet of Things takes over in your personal life, this gets to be a really big deal. If your umbrella knows what time it is, whether it's raining or not, and starts blinking, where did it get that information? And how did it get configured? Did you have to work at it? There's an umbrella out there, by the way, that does that. And in Minnesota, that might be important. If your car knows when it's snowing and just automatically turns on when you wake up, at some point, thing-to-thing communication becomes an amazingly powerful opportunity for us as architects. Also, negotiation. How can we get the best price for pencils for our company? I'll go back to Alan's talk where he had the pencil, the most important tool, but how do we get the best price for them? That's not a breadth search problem in procurement. This isn't a chance where we need to do negotiation, especially if we're buying tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of pencils. So when you look at these things, I want you to think about this from a value perspective. Innovation is the single most important skill for architects, and the only way to do that, what is it in Heinlein that Lazarus Long said, if you can't show it in numbers, it's opinion, not science. So show it in value numbers and write your business case yourself as a team. At ISA, we say you're definitely not an experienced architect if you haven't written a business case in the last year. And that's just, even if it's just for practice. And the reason is because we're not documentation specialists. Just like Jeff said, we're not here to model the enterprise. We're here to show value to the business that we're employed by. And the only way to do that is come up with ideas. The chief architect of Dell just recently said to his team, I don't want anyone who works for me who doesn't have ideas. If you want to not have ideas, go someplace else. You will have opinions, and you will have ideas, and you will make us want, and we're going to pick from those the ones that are best for us this year. So while you're looking at SMART, keep in mind that this is a realistic option for you to be thinking about, to bring to your businesses, to either drive profitability, constituent value, reuse, market size, or market quality measurements. And I'm going to, they're telling me I'm way over. Not way over. I'm going to go ahead and end it with the what does SMART mean tomorrow. In fact, everything after this is just about ISA, and you've got plenty of that before me. So what does SMART mean tomorrow? Autonomy, power to influence, resources to command and use, motivation, and combat. And I don't mean combat in the sense of like big robots going out and fighting each other. I mean combat in the sense of competitiveness. How are our systems going to compete in the next generation? Not just us, not how are we going to think about every possibility, but how are our systems going to help us compete? How are they going to be motivated? How do we provide that motivation in terms of our goals, capabilities, and strategic planning? And how much power will they have? That is what makes you an innovator and an architect. So thank you. But if there are any questions, I don't know. Everybody's going, yeah, we've heard that. You know, AI, Ryzen machines. Wow. I like you. You get free drinks. She gets free drinks. Okay.